Good evening, Trump family. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on that notifications bell so you don't miss a thing. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news. The Durham probe report is going to be sent to Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump Republicans in the Senate and Trump Republicans in the House. So before you think or even write, nothing's ever going to happen. We are just days away from a red wave in the Senate and Trump Republicans, not Paul Ryan, Liz Cheney, who lost 40 points in Wyoming. Not Adam Kinzinger, who didn't even run and knew that he would lose by 40 points also in a blue state. But we're talking about a red wave in a couple of days, like 3 weeks, let's say November 8th, about less than 3 weeks. A complete paradigm shift in what is you expect when all of media and a good part of the Republican Party didn't focus on Durham. Now you have a completely different House in a completely different Senate. You will have Trump Republicans, whether they're Jim Jordan in the Judiciary Committee being the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, James Colmar, the chairman of the Oversight Committee. You have a Trump Republican in the House Intel, you have top Senate chairman's chairman who are Trump Republicans, or at least have the same foreign policy and belief system as Donald Trump on a lot of things, which is great for this country. You see what Democrats have done. They have driven this country into not only a recession, but possible nuclear confrontation/annihilation. That's not hyperbolic. You had New York sending out leaflets about what to do in the event that the end of the world takes place, but hit subscribe to this channel in general, I want to read you. Washington Post a National Review article really quickly. And the National Review article is waiting for John Durham's Russia Gate report. That's like a couple of hours ago. But there's a really interesting, like AP News article. It's the typical Associated Press, New York Times, Washington, Reuters, and the Associated Press are supposed to be completely nonpartisan, where you'd have these absurd headlines that always go against Trump's claim of crime of the century fizzles in 3-year probe. It didn't fizzle at all. He didn't prosecute any of the crimes really that Trump was talking about. Trump was saying he was set up and framed by FBI agents. We saw that within the trial. That's why they couldn't acquit. That's why they acquitted Sussman and Chenko. How can you lie to a Federal Bureau of Investigation agent when the agent is in on it and accepts all the lies? The jury had to tend to believe that there was a lie number one and that these government officials were duped. They weren't duped because they were in on it. Then you get like very highly educated people. This is a law professor at George Washington University here in quote, you really measure the success of an investigation by what it uncovers in terms of pernicious activity. And he's uncovered nothing. Durham's uncovered nothing. What if you read the indictments and you read what the background was in all the trials, not the actual what they were prosecuting? They were prosecuting whether Danchenko lied, and whether Sussman lied, and most importantly, whether those lies deceived Federal Bureau of Investigation agents. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, was that they didn't deceive these officials because these officials were in on it. In the assessment trial, we found out that Sussman in conjunction or working alongside a tech executive and a whole bunch of other academics and tech people completely fabricated links between Trump and a server in Moscow and used that fabricated information to then try to get government officials and successfully got government officials to investigate Trump on completely fabricated information, lies, deceitful statements. And one at the Central Intelligence or one agency said it was user created. The information given to them was user create. I forgot exactly the term, but they fabricated everything. How on earth is that not pernicious activity? And this is the problem. You have academia completely clueless as to what really went on. They only look at the Washington Post or Associated Press headline. They don't see anything that Durham was actually talking about. You had Robbie Mook and Mark Elias both point the finger at Hillary Clinton in assessment and assessment trials, saying yes, she deliberately gave false information to media. So of course, there's pernicious activity. There's nefarious activity. Are you kidding me? You have lies being given to government officials who just want a pretext to investigate Trump. And that's almost certainly what's taking place with the mishandling of classified data. How on earth would an informant know that Trump had all this information? There was no way for the informative known. And they already have the information anyway. They have the top secret intelligence. The problem is they can't prove that Trump didn't declassify. Even he can declassify even top secret until as a president. But that's a whole other story. You know, there were violations of the legal statutes pertaining the handling of classified data, but no reasonable prosecutor would indict. But then they're like, no pernicious activity. Well, he's uncovered a great deal with Danchenko. The FBI offered $1 million to verify a dossier that was completely full of deceitful, absurd, fabricated made-up statements against Trump. They utilized that to investigate an incoming president. How much more pernicious or nefarious could that be? But see, again, when you have law professors saying that Durham didn't uncover anything because they didn't get somebody online. The lie has to be a lie had to have caused the FBI official to do something he wouldn't have done. These people just were looking for a pretext. That's why the jury said no, they weren't really duped. The defense didn't even the defense, and then Jenko didn't even offer a defense. They actually let the FBI officials on the stand do their defense when Durham asked these officials, well, did the lie impact your investigation? Oh, I don't know. We don't know, possibly we, who knows, there's so many people in the hierarchy. We just don't know. So then you needed the officials say yes, those lies impacted the investigation. That's what these government officials said when it came to Manafort or Flynn or Papadopoulos. And none of those people, especially not Manafort, had crimes that had nothing to do with what they were investigating. But Flynn and Papadopoulos was set up, but the government agents, the Federal Bureau of Investigation agents, that, oh my God, their allies were so material, and they, it really hurt our investigation. So then there you have the indictment, but it had nothing to do, they weren't investigating. The Mueller probe was a complete failure. The Mueller probe actually exonerated Trump, found and nothing's contacts with the Kremlin, who had more context. Hillary and Bill met with Vladimir at his home outside Moscow. That's according to Newsweek. And the Hill went to anyone when around the time 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, just miraculously, was sold to a business that eventually was sold to the Kremlin. GE. But that is like, that's okay. Because it's just a commodity, as we banned the import of commodities from that country, oil, so they're all over the place all the time. But I mean, when Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene, when Matt Gaetz, when Jim Jordan, when James Comer, when Ron Johnson and all these people, when they're going after government officials who are corrupt, who take the U.S. economy push to end economic activity, and they're going after Hunter and graft and bribery. The problem when you have academics, who don't read the indictments, who don't even the indictment, the activity, the shady, corrupt, nefarious, diabolical activity within those indictments, fabricating information and then funneling that information to the media and to government officials to get the entire country thinking that Trump was a plank by another adversary. That happened. That defense doesn't even, the defense never even in Sussman and in the Danchenko trials didn't even oppose, or didn't even have an issue with almost everything within the indictment, because that's what they did. They did fabricate information, they did funnel that absurd nonsense into the US government. But you didn't get. I mean, I have no clue why Durham decided to go after these lies. I think maybe he thought that it would be a slam dunk, very simple. He should have gone after actual government agents who couldn't hide behind just being inept. He had the text messages, he had Peter Strzok's text messages. And he had corresponding behavior. He had not just Peter Strzok text messages, you had a whole bunch of text messages from government officials. So I don't know why he did that. But at the end of the day, it highlighted all the things that will lead to endless investigations in the House and the Senate. I don't understand for the life of me why people are so quick to give up. And then you have some people believing absurd, stupid message boards that are obviously hoaxes. And I told people that in the very beginning of 2018, I'm like, do not listen to any absurd message boards, probably a Democratic operative. Almost certainly that started that nonsense. It was the stupidest thing in the world, and not most Trump supporters, but a small number believed that nonsense. And it's like you have a special counsel here uncovering everything for future investigations. Let's say Danchenko got indicted on all 5 counts, let's say that Sussman got indicted. Do you think media would agree that Trump was set up in the frame? Do you think these law professors would agree? No. They would say, well, that has nothing to do with what then they would be even greater hypocrites than they already are. Because none of the indictments with the Mueller probe had anything to do with the initial claim regarding Trump. Manafort had nothing metaphor, it was about 10 years prior. Flynn allegedly lied to Strzok and another person, and you're trusting the 302s of agents who have only disdain for Flynn and Trump and others, so I don't get that. Then Papadopoulos met with an ambassador. How on earth did they know the ambassador was telling the truth? They made Danchenko a confidential human source, okay, and paid him 200+ grand so that media and that Trump Republicans wouldn't get any information about how they were setting up and framing Trump. When you have bureau agents and government officials saying sources and methods we can't answer, that they're hiding all their corrupt behavior. That's why when Ted Cruz asked one Federal Bureau of Investigation official, "Can you tell me how many agents were at a certain location on a certain day?" the official said, "No, we can't talk about that." That's another way of saying, oh, there's more to that story. So give me your thoughts below. The Durham probe report is very important. I mean, it's like, you can't look. We are on the brink of a monumental historic sea change, paradigm change in American politics. And all people can think about a lot of people moving in, and nothing ever happened within. Their emperor was like, okay, well, you know what? Rome wasn't built in a day. This is a very important step. Am I disappointed? Of course, I'm disappointed. Of course, I'm disappointed. But does that mean that nothing's ever going to happen? No, we're on. We're right about to have impeachment, endless investigations into the Durham probe into Hunter and to Joe. Joe will get impeached on felonies. Not an ellipsis in a transcript. Okay, the difference between suspicion by Trump towards Democrats, and Democrats towards Trump's that Trump didn't commit a crime. That's why they went seamlessly from he tried to overthrow American democracy. And that didn't work right to mishandling classified data. And that hasn't worked because they haven't indicted them. They might very well indict him though, next year, because that's the only thing they have. They're gonna roll into 2024 with an impeached president. With wit that vet not only is impeached but impeached because of potential felonies. Graft and bribery are serious issues and they take down governments. People start getting hyped up. This is so much to be excited about in American politics. Now because Democrats have shown they are completely inept. They tanked the US economy. I mean, it's so obvious they're in the House, the Senate and the presidency. They're presiding over not only over a recession, but a terrible foreign policy in Europe. And they wanted to save the planet. They went to battle against oil and gas and they flooded the country for 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves. They're all over the place all the time. They don't even believe any of the nonsense. Poverty is up, not down. The whole point to being a socialist or a Democrat is that you care about poor people. You've created the poverty, there's more poor people. How much do you care? How can you care about poor people when you make them poor? How is that even possible? But Democrats have found a way. Alright folks, that's the update. Have a great weekend. We will have more updates for you this weekend. Thank you so much.